In 2012, it was the Athletics' dramatic comeback to win the division versus the Texas Rangers. Last season, the A's and Rangers battled back and forth all the way into September as the Athletics finally pulled away, winning back-to-back division titles. This season, the A's are fighting to stay alive in the wild card race. With 4 games remaining in the regular season, the Green and Gold find themselves in Arlington, Texas, as the red-hot Rangers will look to return the favor and disrupt the Athletics' postseason plans. Game 1 of a 4-game series. A's-Rangers next. Here in Arlington, Texas, A's wrapping up the regular season with a 4-game set. Josh Reddick is a hot hitter. He's going to hit second in the A's lineup tonight. And the A's will send the big right-hander Jason Hammel to the mound. There's your wild card standings. A's and Royals still tied for the top 2 spots. Mariners won today, so they're hanging in there at 2.5 back. So it's the first of a 4-game set. Oakland A's and the Texas Rangers, and you're going to see it right here on Comcast Sportsnet, California. Hi again, everybody. Welcome to Oakland A's Baseball. Along with Ray Fosse, I'm Glenn Kuiper. Jason Hammel will indeed get the start. It's been a while, Ray. His last appearance was in relief last week against these Rangers, so at least he's going to be well rested.
And the good thing about Jason Hammel, he enjoys the rest. It's happened to him already this season. The key for Jason Hammel, as we have seen, keep the ball down, keep the breaking ball down. You do not want to elevate anything here in Arlington simply because the ball carries so well. This is an aggressive club of the Rangers, so if he has the breaking ball work and the fastball down, he should have success in a game that the A's actually need tonight to help them to get to postseason.
All right, the Rangers will send the veteran right-hander Colby Lewis to the mound. He got a win against the A's earlier this year. So we'll have lineups and first pitch when we return to the ballpark here in Arlington. It's the A's and the Rangers coming up on Comcast Sportsnet, California.
Box. Try Jack's Spicy Chicken Club Combo for just $4.99 plus tax. And by Toyota, #1 in MPG, durability, and resale value. Toyota, let's go places.
Let's go look at the Globe Life Ballpark here in Arlington, Texas. And it's the first of a 4-game series. A's wrapping up the regular season. And still chasing that wild card. And they cannot do it tonight. Maybe tomorrow. Game time weather is presented by the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk. The admission-free boardwalk is open weekends. 83 degrees. Very, very nice. Not quite as hot as usually is here. Of course, it's a little later in the year, and that makes it nice. So Thursday night baseball from Globe Life Park here in Arlington. Let's look at the lineup tonight for the Athletics. Starts with Coco Crisp and then Josh Reddick. So Reddick, a very hot hitter, moves up to the second spot. Then Donaldson, Dunn, Moss, Vogt, Lowry, Soto, and Sogar.
And it is the veteran Colby Lewis on the mound for the Texas Rangers. He's making his 29th start. And for Colby Lewis, he's defeated the Athletics to 8 wins total in his career against the team that actually at one time had him. But Colby Lewis tried to extend his career. And he's really the veteran on this club right now, especially with so many different injuries. The A's would like to try to get a win tonight in the opener of this series, especially after being swept by the Rangers last week at the Coliseum.
Defensively for the Rangers tonight, Ryan Rua is in left field, Leonis Martin in center, Jake Smolinski in right, and then Beltre, Andrus, Odor, Rosales on the infield. Robinson Chirinos is the catcher. So Bob Melvin and the Athletics still sitting on a magic number of 2 to clinch a playoff spot. They cannot do it tonight because the Seattle Mariners won their game. Finished about an hour ago. They were in Toronto. And the Mariners got a win, a much needed win. So Mariners stay alive. And the Kansas City Royals are getting started. Just about the same time the A's are. They are in Chicago to take on the White Sox in the first of a 4-game series. So we will obviously keep a close eye on that Royals-White Sox game. And again, the Mariners won. And the Mariners will now head home to host the Angels this weekend. So that's where we're at in the wild card. Heck, it looks like there's only American League wild card to be wrapped up.
And the division, the Central Division of the American League, because it's between the Tigers. Although it's
Tigers are in.
Yeah, Tigers in. But as far as it would take a miracle for the Royals to defeat the Tigers as far as the division. Okay, you know the one thing about what the Mariners did today, they went back to the bullpen. Tom Wilhelmsen started the game, so they went to the bullpen and finished it off with Fernando Rodney. But they did pick up the win, and they stay alive, and they go home for the final 3 starting tomorrow night against the Angels, who had the off day today in Seattle.
The Mariners won that game 7-5, and there's right. They used 9 relievers, and Wilhelmsen started the game. Oh, first pitch, Colby Lewis pours in a strike to Coco Crisp. So we're underway from Arlington. Bill Welke will call balls and strikes tonight. Paul Emmel, James Hoy, and Mark Carlson round out the umpiring crew.
Well, it's interesting what Lloyd McClendon, the manager of the Mariners, said when we were in Seattle a couple weeks ago. He said, if I could get a win for a starter after 4 innings, I could go to my bullpen. Well, he did it today with the bullpen with the numbers that he used, like he said. But it was without an actual starter starting. And he has been injured.
So 2-1 the count to Coco Crisp, hitting .250, 9 home runs, 47 RBIs. He bounces that one up the middle under the glove of Colby Lewis, and Coco has a leadoff single. Colby Lewis kind of punched his glove after that, as he felt he probably should have caught it.
After first pitch strike, you're right. That's fielding your position. He kind of turned to the side after making the pitch instead of squaring to the plate after the pitch, and that's the difference of making the play and not. Well, if you can field your position, how much better. I mean, you're basically one of, should be 5 infielders with the 4 around the infield plus the pitcher up the middle, and any ball up the middle, if it can be stopped by the pitcher, that changes the game considerably.
So that'll bring up Reddick. Reddick takes a strike on the outside corner. Reddick was 5 for 8 in that series against the Angels. And he's got 9 hits in his last 16 at bats.
Hit 8 yesterday against Santiago, the lefty.
Coco, a very short lead at first. And he's fouled straight back. Count even, or make that 0-2, excuse me. Donaldson to follow, just underway from Globe Life Park here in Arlington. A's with an 86-72 record, and they're 38-39 on the road. So they'd like to finish with a winning record on the road. These are 36-36 against the West. 7-8 against these Texas Rangers, but they're 5-1 here at this ballpark this year.
Tough park to win in, and that's what makes that record so amazing for the Athletics to have the 5-1. Perfect pitch to throw to first base for Chernos, but a dangerous throw to first.
Forward right choice, recent Josh Reddick, and not only swinging the bat well, but a nice stroke to the middle of the field, left center field. Going the other way there with a 2-run double. That was yesterday, trying to get the A's back in the game. And the 1-2 big overhand curve, and he chased it. And we've seen that big curveball from Colby Lewis over the years.
One thing about Reddick, a couple of springs ago, after his 2012 season, which he hit 32, he's using the whole field, and that's what he's been doing last 6 games to your left. 5.63 average, couple of doubles, triple, and 4 runs batted in. Against the Rangers, 7 RBI for the home run. Of course, maybe that's why he's hitting second, but unfortunately swung at a curveball, a pitcher's pitch from Colby Lewis.
So hot hitter in a ballpark he likes to hit it, so slide him up in the order. So here's Donaldson. Donaldson hitting .251 with 28 home runs, 97 RBI. So he's got 4 games to knock in 3 runs and get to the 100 RBI mark. Andrus in the hole, throws to first, and it'll be a base hit as Rosales does the right thing, comes off the bag. Andrus did everything he could do, but Donaldson beat it out. So a couple of hits for the A's here in the first inning.
On a breaking ball, Donaldson finding the 5.5 hole. And the interesting thing with the speed of Coco Crisp, Andrus wasn't even thinking about second. He just figured the only chance he had was to throw across the diamond to get Donaldson. Remember in Oakland, he did the same thing. And he made a bad throw, and the ball kicked over to the sidelines. And unfortunately, at that time, the A's were just a run away from tying the game. And that did not happen. But really, it's kind of being prepared. If the ball is hit to me, it's a tough play. Where do I go?
Most hits allowed. Colby Lewis, 7th on that list.
He must be good, because that's a list of pretty good pitchers.
So you got to pitch a lot of innings.
But you look at that list, there's some pretty impressive names on there.
Burley, Price, Verlander, Phil Hughes. Phil Hughes had a nice year for the Minnesota Twins.
He set a record strikeout to walk ratio was the best. Impressive year.
0-1 to Dunn. Swinging and a miss. 0-2, 88 miles an hour.
High fastball, and they're playing him to pull the ball, but Adam Dunn has shown power to the opposite field, and just that little bit of an uppercut swing that he uses.
And that one just missed on the inside corner.
It's amazing the velocity of the pitch, but location. And actually, Adam Dunn probably got away with one. Milwaukee in the inside corner didn't call it, so maybe extra opportunity would help.
On June 16th, Lewis started against the A's at the Coliseum, and Rangers won the game 14-8. And I remember that game because the A's were hitting rockets all over the place in the first inning off Colby Lewis, and he didn't have much. Good pitch there. He strikes out Dunn for the second out. And the A's got a couple runs off him in the first inning and probably should have had more. And then he settled in a little bit.
Well, a hard breaking ball. And nothing to do for Adam Dunn to make any contact. It seems like the big guy, every time he gets the plate, that he's going to hit one in the short porch of right field.
In the last 10 starts versus the A's, Colby Lewis 6-1. With that start that I'm talking about, the Rangers then came back. They scored 6 runs in the 4th inning and then won in a blowout.
Well, June, Colby Lewis, that game that you're referencing, Brandon Moss did this against the right-hander. He has 25. That was gone and deep. He got a shot yesterday, well documented, in his right hip, and he said it'd been bothering him since May. He's been feeling it a little bit, so he got a cortisone shot yesterday. That's why he was not available to pinch hit in the game. Took batting practice today and said he's never felt better. Said he's able to finally clear his hips. And, you know, Ron Cappy said he changed his stance and his swing. He said, I hope my muscle memory changes. I can get back to the stance and swing I had prior to the injury to the right hip.
So that's that lead hip.
Yeah.
And he's got a fair amount of torn cartilage in there. So, you know, he doesn't want to say that that's the reason I was struggling, but how could it not be?
Absolutely. It changed his swing. And, you know, if you can't use your hips, and he felt free and clear during batting practice today after having the shot yesterday. So it's just a matter of getting back to the original swing.
1-2 breaking ball, and Colby Lewis strikes out Moss. So Colby Lewis gives up a couple of hits, but he strikes out 3. So the A's do not score. Rangers come to bat in the bottom of the 1st. Check out the Texas lineup. Carlos Martin in center, Elvis Anders at short, Rognan Odor is the young second baseman, and Beltre at third, Jake Smolinski in right, Ryan Rua in left, Robinson Trinos will do the catching. Luis Sardinas is the designated hitter. Adam Rosales will play first.
And Jason Hamill, as we mentioned, has not started since September the 12th. Did pitch 3 innings against the Rangers a week ago tonight. So what this young man would like to do, now that he's a father for the second time, pitch well in his first start and try to pick up his first win against the Rangers, as he is 0-2 in his career.
His 3rd start after being acquired by the Athletics was right here in Texas. And the Rangers won the game 4-1. That was on the 25th of July. Leonis Martin grounds that one right to Sogard. He scoops it up. So 1 out here in the first inning. A's defense tonight has Moss in left, Crisp in center, Reddick in right, Donaldson, Lowry, Sogard, and Vogt on the infield, with Giovanni Soto doing the catching. Of course, Soto with the Texas Rangers this year, and that's who the A's acquired him from. He was with them last year too.
The thing about Elvis Andrus, first time he comes to play, I think it's always interesting. You know, it's one thing when hitters will say they'll be catching the umpire. He always says, waves to the visiting dugout. In this case, the A's. He said, "Hi, how's everybody doing?"
You don't like that?
No, it's just a friendly gesture. He's the only guy I've ever seen do it.
I like it.
Yeah, but I think
classy.
it's just something that he does, and I don't think I can ever say I've seen anybody else do it.
Nope. Guys will usually tap the umpire, tap the catcher.
He's a friendly guy. He's just being friendly to everybody.
Andrus 262, a couple of home runs and 40 RBIs. Missed outside, 3-1 now with Rognen Odor in the on-deck circle.
How's everybody doing? Good to see you. Welcome to Texas.
Swing there, fouls it straight back. Full count. Chip, say hi back. We got a wild card to win.
Trying to win a game. So Chip in the clubhouse said, "Where you been?" He says, "I'm getting all set up in the dugout." This was about 4:30 or 7 o'clock game. He was getting everything prepared in the dugout.
High pop up, shallow right. It's going to be Sogard who gets back there to make the catch.
It is time now for the Nissan Keys of the game. 4 more and score. That's good. A good thing to do if you got to win. And Hamill, keep on rolling. Jason Hamill's pitching well, and Jason Hamill, his wife Alyssa, proud parents of their second child. And Kipe, I think, and he said he actually had someone send him a message because his new daughter's name is Colby, spelled exactly the same as tonight's starting pitcher for the Rangers, Colby Lewis. And so a friend said, "Do you know who you're pitching against tonight?" "Yeah, just realized it's Colby." So congratulations to the Hamill family and their son Beckett, and now Colby Hamill in the family. And that's why he missed his start last weekend. That's why he pitched 3 innings against the Rangers prior to heading back east.
More action for Sogard, and that's a 3-up, 3-down inning for Jason Hamill. We're through 1 from Arlington, no score.
Autographed memorabilia online. Items include signed 2014 All-Star baseballs, autographed jerseys, lineup cards, and game-used helmets, bats, balls, and bases. All items are authenticated under the MLB Authentication Program. For more information, you can visit athletics.com/auctions or find us on Twitter at Oak Authentics. That's OAK Authentics. Is that hashtag? Is that what that means? Or just Oak?
Hashtag is that little thing right in front.
Okay.
Stephen Vogt to lead it off. Vogt, Lowry, and Soto against Colby Lewis. Lewis gave up 2 hits in the first, but struck out 3. Belted to center. Martin racing back. He's going to get there. Reaches up, makes the catch.
As we talked about over the series in Oakland, if you can get a hitter to hit the ball straight away center, especially here because it is a long way. And Colby Lewis trying to prevent left-handed hitters, especially lefties, from pulling the ball in the seats. So straight away center. Martin can cover a lot of ground in center, and he handles that one near the warning track.
So 1 out for Lowry. A couple of scores to update you. The Royals scored in the top of the first in Chicago. So Royals 1, White Sox nothing, bottom of the first. And the Tigers are leading the Twins 3-0 through 4 innings in Detroit. And right into the glove of Elvis Sanders. Soft line drive, 2 outs. So the Tigers with a magic number of 3 to clinch the division. They have clinched a postseason spot. That happened yesterday. So Detroit is in the postseason. Now they'll try to wrap up the division. They have a 2-game lead over the Royals coming into today's action. So we'll watch those 2 games. And the Tigers getting close. Scherzer pitching tonight for Detroit, looking for his 18th win.
Not bad numbers for a potential free agent hit the market.
Speaking of potential free agents, James Shields is pitching for the Royals tonight. He's 14-8. So that lines Shields up to pitch the wild card game if that's where the Royals end up. Shields and Scherzer, both free agents. Soto blasts one to right center. Martin on the move near the wall, and it's off his glove. Soto is going to stop at second base with a 2-out double.
Well, we have seen Soto take the ball to that direction. Center field, right center field. Martin playing it slightly left center and playing relatively shallow. Goes back on the ball well and kind of shied away from the wall when he jumped, hit the warning track and jumped, and probably had another step. And had he taken the next step, might have caught it. Soto, he's played in this park, probably thinks he's hit it well enough and thought it was caught there, then realized it fell and decided better shut it down.
So here is Eric Sogard. He's trying to get a run home here. 3 hits now for the A's off Lewis.
Amazing with Lewis and establishing a little bit of a pattern here. And first inning had runners in scoring position. A runner went straight to the breaking ball to a couple of the hitters getting strikeouts at Reddick and Moss.
This one lifted in the air. Odor backs up the second baseman. He's got it signed, retired. So the A's strand Soto at second. Bottom of the second coming up, Beltre, Smolinski, and Rua to hit for Texas. Prism. Learn how at prism.com. Beautiful night here in Arlington. Really one of the more comfortable nights that we've done a game here.
82 first pitch according to the PA announcer, in-house PA, so a very nice evening by comparison.
Beltre high and deep down the right field line, but hooking foul. Beltre hitting .325 with 18 home runs and 75 RBIs. Fourth best batting average in the American League. How's Jose Altuve doing? He's hitting .343, so I would say he's got that batting title wrapped up. Victor Martinez is hitting .334, so Altuve has a 9-point lead over him with weekend games to be played.
Yeah, over 600 plate appearances, I don't think, or close to that. I'd say there's a pretty good chance it's a lock.
Michael Brantley from the Indians is third at .329, and then Beltre at .325. Nelson Cruz leads the league in home runs with 40. Mike Trout leads in RBIs with 110. Cruz has 108 RBI.
Hard slider away from the aggressive Beltre, and see if he shortens up a little bit now, but that pitch way out of the strike zone. Again.
Good curveball, and that's the first strikeout for Jason Hammel.
Beltre probably trying to get to the 20 home run mark, and he's at 18, swinging. Had a couple of pitches uncharacteristically of him swinging at back-to-back bad breaking pitches. Actually, both of them were out of the strike zone, but makes it seem like that for Hammel, pitches that he's throwing are very, very good.
So here's Jake Smolinski. Good curve again for a strike. Smolinski had a big series against the A's last week at the Coliseum. He was 6 for 13 with a home run. Donaldson takes a step in, grabs it, and that's the second out. The first 5 have been retired by Jason Hammel.
And in the park where the ball travels well, it's good to see 3 of those 5 outs on the ground, the other a strikeout, and 1 pop up to the second baseman.
So here's Ryan Rua.
That time just prior to getting down the catching position, Soto was giving the indication about the speed of this hitter, just to kind of remind the infielders. And Soto familiar with this team. I think there are times that helps out, as long as pay attention when you are teaming. You look at the guy and say, now if I were back there, what would I call? Maybe a fastball, curveball. A lot of times you just don't expect to be traded, or expect to be traded to where you're facing the team that you were traded from.
Oh, 2. The fastball that time at 94 miles an hour. So Hammel, just the second inning, but very sharp in the early going.
Some pitchers like extra rest, some don't. I think Sonny Gray is in the category of he wants to stay on a regular turn, but Jason Hammel seems when he gets some extra time in between starts, he pitches effectively. You can call that a strike too, because that looked like a pretty good pitch.
Well, we told you about the relief appearance, which was his last appearance. Could have been called a strike. But his last start rate, which was back on September 12th in Seattle, he only threw 78 pitches. So he has not thrown a lot in the last week and a half. Reddick on the move near the foul line, makes the catch. 6 up, 6 down for Jason Hammel. Third inning coming up, no score.
Tickets are available online at athletics.com/postseason and over the phone at 877-493-BALL. Don't wait. Get your playoff tickets today.
American League wildcard game will be Tuesday. American League Division Series starts Thursday. Top of the order for the A's, Coco Crisp, who had a single up the middle in the first inning. Beltre in on the grass at third. Rosales playing shallow at first.
That is the stance that Coco was using before he went to the bat on his shoulder stance for maybe a couple, 2 or 3 weeks. So he had difficulty with the bat up in the position where it is now. Sheila Davis liked the change, but Coco more with the chin tucked to the right shoulder, bat off the shoulder.
And a line drive to left field, and that's a base hit. Coco's 2 for 2.
Ball up the middle, ball left field. That means he's staying back. He's on the pitches, and he gets on base to start the inning as he did in the first inning. Fastball away, and Kobe Lewis doing a good job, as we mentioned, keeping the ball away from the lefties. I think it's very tempting for left-handed hitters to think about the right field bleachers, similar to what right-handers do at Fenway with a short Fenway Green Monster.
So here's Reddick. First pitch to Reddick is a strike. Coco's sitting on 19 steals. 19 for 23 in that stolen base department. So we'd like to get to 20. Reddick hits one very high to shallow right. Smolinski coming in. Smolinski has it, and Reddick is retired.
That's back-to-back curveball down and in. Reddick check swing his first at bat. This one, though, he did make contact, hit it straight up. He's going to look at the diamond vision and wonder what happened, but pitch might even been out of the strike zone. Kobe Lewis, fastballs away to the lefties. You can see the 62% of the fastball. Slider, which is kind of a slurve. It acts sometimes like the curveball, but the slider down and in. So that's a 84%. Curveball occasionally, same with the changeup, but like now to the left-handers, fastballs away, breaking pitch down and in.
Wouldn't you say
with the slider?
Wouldn't you say, Ray, his slider is a big breaking slider, bigger than maybe most sliders? Almost looks like a curveball.
Yeah, it's and they talk about a slurve, but it's slower. The slurve is, but his is thrown harder, which is in between the two. Really not overpowering with hitting his pitches, but location for him is important. And he seemed to hit the targets nicely.
Donaldson had a base hit in the first inning.
Outfield shallow, surprisingly, and shading him to left center, surprising. Smolinski way off the line. I wonder if they've seen the spray chart that we show at Donaldson. This spray chart shows line and line. Normally you would see a defense more straight up. Infield is, but the outfield really shading him to port.
Now. Lewis threw just 10 pitches in the second inning, 17 in the first. Swing and a miss. Donaldson with it. Big swing, maybe pulled off a little bit.
Slider away, and you see Giorno's calling the 3 and pointing to his Right thigh, wanted to slide away, which he got. And the fact it was off speed, that's the biggest thing.
Looks like they're coming inside with a fastball. Strike 3 called, and he got in there with an 89-mile-an-hour fastball.
Well, Josh had to be thinking about the height of it. Had the corner. Couldn't pull the trigger, but that was the height, probably what he questioned, because he stays at the plate.
Could have been a little bit low.
At that angle there, looks like it was low. Chirinos brought it up, but got the call.
So 4 strikeouts for Lewis. And here's Adam Dunn. Dunn struck out in the first inning. Hayes had 2 on and 1 out in the first, and in the second they had a runner at second and 2 out. Could not get him home. Coco runs. Chirinos' throw is there, and they got him. A perfect throw by Robinson Chirinos right on the bag, and they get Coco stealing. Doesn't look like there's any argument, so Coco is thrown out, and that's how the top of the third comes to an end. What a throw. On 6 up, 6 down. It'll be Chirinos, Sardinas, Rosales. How about that? Chirinos, Sardinas, Rosales.
That's good. Yeah, those are 3 big names, especially with finishers, right? Rosales.
Robinson Chirinos didn't like that call. 12 home runs for Chirinos.
He's a very aggressive hitter, and what he did to end the top of the 3rd inning was really impressive.
It was almost close to a perfect throw.
I think he had to make that throw to get the out.
Did.
Because Coco got the jump, but Chirinos did exactly what a catcher's supposed to do, everything.
This one lined down the right field line, but it is foul in the seats.
This is what he did. I mean, you watch Chirinos come out from behind the plate. He came to get the ball. And that throw right on the bag. Bang, bang. Andrew straddling the bag, which is always great to see the middle infielder. And see how he came after it. And some catchers will wait the ball for the ball to come to them. You don't want to do that. You want to go get the ball and get your momentum going towards the bag, which he did.
Chased a high fastball there, and that's strikeout number 2. Trinos strikes out. Some defensive numbers. Tossed out 23 attempted base stealers, 4th most in the American League, and I don't think he was expected to catch nearly as much as he has, but he's been out there a lot. This is his 86th game that he has caught.
Probably jump up to 120 to 30 next year because he's that good. I don't think we look at a percentage of pitches for a pitcher from year to year as a catcher with games caught, but I think the Rangers have had Jim Sundberg for a long time, Pudge Rodriguez, but they've since Pudge has retired. He left, went on to the Tigers, Marlins, of course, but they'd like to get somebody they can throw back for consistently, and Chirinos might be the guy. There is Pudge right there.
Hanging out.
Got his own security guards down there. That's good, and that's big when you're
right down there next to the dugout. Three and one now to Luis Sardinas, who's DHing. Saw Sardinas at third base in a game in Oakland last week.
They gave Beltre the day off for the rest May game. Let him DH.
Payoff pitch to Sardinas. Reached for it, fouls it to the screen. Gonzalez to follow. This one drilled to left center. That's hit well. Moss and Crisp on the move. Nobody's going to get it. Picked up by Coco, and Sardinas has a one-out double. There's your first hit for the Texas Rangers.
Well, they fell behind him, and 3-1 strike that he took, but then 3-2 gave him a similar fastball, and that is what happens. No matter where you're hitting, who's hitting, but you get a fastball like that. They played him shallow, and they played him with a gap, and got the ball checked up. So a one-out double. First hit, first base runner, and he's in scoring position.
So here's Rosales playing first base tonight. Curve first strike. White Sox have scored a couple runs in the bottom of the second inning, so the White Sox lead the Royals 2-1. Still batting in the bottom of the second. Royals got a run in the top of the first. A's and Royals tied, and remember the Royals have the tiebreaker. Hit hard but foul down the third baseline.
A good thing about Hamill, especially in this inning, did it to Reno, struck him out a fastball in, and Soto caught the fastball inside to Rosales, and he got it in the location that he wanted to. And surprisingly, both hitters have swung at pitches really out of the strike zone.
Up and in. Twins have scored a couple of runs, scored 2 in the 5th against the Tigers.
Soto wanted the fastball up high. He did.
Leonis Martin, the leadoff man, to follow here in the bottom of the third. High fastball on a foul tip. And that is strikeout number 3 for Jason Hamill. So you saw the fastball. How about the Jason Hamill slider? In July, that's the yellow. In green, that's August and September. So the batting average against is down. Chase percentage up. So slider's a big pitch for him.
Especially down.
Cross up there, and unfortunately it looked like a pretty good pitch.
That's a strike. And if the umpire's watching the baseball, I mean, look, this pitch is right down the middle. And granted it.
Oh.
And that's a remarkable recovery for Soto to be able to even put a glove on it, much less catch it. And smile for Hamill. Somebody got crossed up. Not often that you see a cross-up pitch called a strike. That looked like it was.
So called the ball, 1-0. Good curve there, and it's 1-1.
That's the pitch he called when he got crossed up. Because the way he went inside, he was looking for this pitch, and this one was thrown in the middle of the plate.
Sardinas, the runner at second. That curve again. This time Martin lays off. 2-1 the count.
You know, there are times that a catcher pitcher can get crossed up, and you don't see it that often anymore, where a pitcher will actually add and subtract. Once a catcher gives a sign, he'll rub his jersey to add, his pant leg to subtract, and you start adding and subtracting. You're back behind the plate going +2 minus. What is all of this? Time out. It's okay to add or subtract, but when you do both, that's confusing. A lot of times pitching coaches don't want pitchers to do that. The newly named general manager of the Diamondbacks did it, Dave Stewart. He would add and subtract, which basically he knew what he wanted to throw, and he would go to the pitch by adding and subtracting.
Go with third. Give it a shot. So 3-1. Elvis Andrus in the on deck circle. Hit high and foul, second level.
Well, the nice thing about Hamill now with the good breaking pitch, the slider, the curve, whichever one you want to call it, and a good fastball, the movement, he can go either way. And with first base open and the right hand in the on deck circle, you always have to think about, do you want to just give in to him? He threw him a pretty good fastball that he swung at 3-1. He does have a chance to try to throw his pitch to get the out.
Another fastball. And another foul ball. So 3-2 the count remains. He fed pretty straight up. Curveball hung up there just a little bit. Martin again fouls it back.
A shot of a couple of pitchers, and Craig Gentry, former Ranger, and Gentry, who injured and had the concussion in Chicago. And he said today that he's feeling remarkably better, which I said enough to play, and he said getting there, which was his speed. That's Gentry there with Samardzija and Kazmir, the two pitchers talking.
3-2 swing and a miss with a fastball. And that's the fourth strikeout for Jason Hamill, and Sardinas is stranded at second. No score as we head to the fourth. California is brought to you by California Earthquake Authority. Protect your home with earthquake insurance. Learn more at CaliforniaRocks.com. Top of the fourth inning, Adam Dunn was up there last inning when Coco was thrown out trying to steal. So Dunn steps in again. 1-1 to Adam Dunn. A big night in New York tonight, Ray, with Derek Jeter playing his final game at Yankee Stadium. Orioles and the Yankees tied 2-2 in the sixth inning. A lot of rain today. They were worried about getting that game in, but it started on time. So I'm sure that will be an emotional night for Derek Jeter. How could it not be? And for Yankee fans as well.
1996 Rookie of the Year, first year. Full year with the Yankees and 5 World Championships. Great career for the captain. First ballot Hall of Famer. And the number 2 will be retired. Joe Torres was retired in August, so looking at the last single-digit number to be retired soon. Adam Dunn trying to hit one of the seats, and the ball just running away from him. They're going inside with the fastball this time.
And he lays off, and it's a leadoff walk. So some Derek Jeter notes about playing at Yankee Stadium, the old stadium and the new one. 1,725 hits, most ever in that ballpark. Most runs.
3,000th hit was a home run.
At home.
At home.
Of course.
Yeah, against Tampa Bay.
He almost hit a home run tonight. He hit a double off the top of the wall.
And you know, they have a Hall of Famer by the name of Reggie Jackson. They call him Mr. October. Well, Derek Jeter's called Mr. November. He actually hit a World Series home run in November.
That's right.
A few years back when World Series extended into and past Halloween into November.
Moss fouls it at the plate, so 0-2 the count. And an important game for the Orioles. They're still working on catching the Angels for that best record in the American League. Angels are off tonight. They have a 2.5 game lead over the Orioles for the best record. So the Orioles could shave off a half a game. The Orioles have the tiebreaker between the Angels. Orioles were 4-2 against the Angels this year. So
it's almost a sweep for the Orioles, and the Angels, if they have a 2-game, they'd almost have to lose 3. So after tonight, it's either going to be 3 or 2.
And Moss went around. There's that breaking ball, and it's almost like it's a breaking ball. It almost jams the hitter, the left-handed hitter.
Watch the look on Brandon Moss. He can't believe that he sees it, starts, and wants to hold up, but can't. And then realizes it's a breaking ball out of the strike zone. Have no idea after striking out a batter why pitching coach would go out. I mean, that's just something that maybe he saw something. Maybe he said your pitch count's up. If you don't really get some quick outs, you're going to be gone. I don't know.
You're at 50.
Yeah, I don't know. That was a strange visit. And if he said something about the breaking pitches inside the left-handers, be careful. Well, he's getting strikeouts on those pitches, so I don't know what's so dangerous about that.
Stephen Vogt hit a fly ball to center field in the second inning. Outside corner, strike 1-1 the count. Kobe Lewis with 1 walk and 5 strikeouts so far. He's had a couple opportunities early. What you hope with Lewis as Beltre reaches over the railing right in front of the A's dugout, and he's got it. So Vogt is retired, and that'll bring up Lowry. Look what you hope for, Ray, is Lewis gives up a lot of home runs. He's given up 25 home runs in 166 innings, and that's a lot. And you hope he keep the game close and he makes mistakes somewhere.
And makes a mistake, either the breaking pitch inside the left-handers, because the fastball he seems to keep throwing to the outside part of the plate. Figure if they're going to try to pull it, they're going to hit it to center.
There's the curveball, snaps in there for a strike. Third most home runs allowed in the American League, and a lot lately. Oh, one pitch belted to right. Smolinski's back. He's going to have room. Makes the catch. Side retired. So the A's get a leadoff walk. Do not score. Bottom of the fourth coming up. It'll be Andrus, Odor, and Beltre. No score.
Ticket deals. Follow the A's on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and more. Visit athletics.com/social.
Bottom of the fourth inning, no score. Colby Lewis, Jason Hamill. Early pitchers duel. White Sox leading the Royals 2-1 after 3 in Chicago. And the Tigers leading the Twins 3-2, bottom of the sixth in Detroit. So here's Elvis Andrus stepping in. Andrus popped out in the first inning. See a lot of big breaking balls tonight from both these guys.
Coming back to the game that Hamill pitched against the Astros in Houston, and a lot of the big breaking pitches early, gave up a lot of runs in the first inning, but did not have the sharp break that he has tonight and has had recently. Location of his fastball, excellent, down in the zone.
Odor to follow. Good curve. Andrus can't pull the trigger, and right there, 1-2.
This is a great breaking ball, and not only in the plate, at the plate, but down low. Did not hang.
Donaldson backhands, grabs it, throws in time. This gentleman was honored in between innings, and he is 98 years old. And wow, I am extremely jealous of that man. 98 and moving around like that, and
you know who I think is jealous
time.
also is Yu Darvish. He's wearing his jersey. Darvish said, probably can't do that. 98 up and down the stairs like that. That was impressive.
So he's having a good time. A lot of Darvish jerseys in this ballpark.
You know, one of the things watching the ball that Lowry hit top of the inning, of course, Lowry has power, but I think it's unusual tonight that there's hardly a breeze. Normally it's blowing out hard to right center. Sometimes the ball hit right center, right field is going to carry, but really the ball that Lowry hit, while he hit it well, just kind of died. Yep. So no help at all from usually the wind blowing that direction.
Yeah, that's a good call. I thought Lowry hit it pretty well.
Yeah.
And when you hit one in that area, you immediately think it's got a good chance to go, and it did. It just kind of died up there.
The way the flags are blowing out, that's nothing. They're usually blowing straight in, hard, straight up, and just blowing hard. But and typically the wind hits off the backstop and or the back of the stadium.
Two and two to Rougned Odor, who grounded out to Sogard to end the first inning.
Maybe the A's will get more fastballs in after Kovalova saw Lowry's ball not really travel that well.
That one is hit deep down the right field line, but foul. Rougned Odor. That was not a. I'm going to just protect a little bit on this pitch.
No, I think he's in that swing hard mode regardless of the count, and definitely had the distance, hit up the side of the second deck. Came down very, very hard, but clearly pulled foul.
And breaks his back. Sogard scoops it up, and that's out number 2.
Very unlikely, if you hit a ball as hard as he did foul, you're going to get the same pitch. And he got a breaking ball. He swung like he's going to get the same pitch, but it was a breaking ball. He broke his back.
So 2 outs for Beltre. Beltre struck out in the second inning, one of 4 strikeouts. The first pitch and the first strike. Hamill retired the first 7 and gave up the double, and then has retired the last 4. Adrian Beltre sitting on 2,599 career hits.
Oh, that's why he's swinging away. He swung last time.
He's closing in on a milestone of 2,600 career hits.
Soto that time put his glove behind Beltre as he gave the sign. He's having a little fun with his former team, I think, tonight. He's watch this. I don't know, maybe he tapped him.
Either way, Beltre lines out, side retired. So Hamill with the 3 up, 3 down inning. 5th inning coming up. Sunday plus the official post-game show. The team is Raiders post-game live Sunday to Sunday. The authentic home of the Raiders is Comcast Sports Net. Top of the 5th inning, no score between the A's and the Rangers. A's with the magic number of 2 to get one of the 2 wild card spots. So they can do it with a couple of wins here. Dodgers got in with the division title last night, so 2nd year in a row that the Dodgers have won the National League West. Giants got in today with a loss by the Brewers. So the National League, the participants are in Washington, St. Louis, Pittsburgh, Los Angeles, San Francisco. Those are the 5 postseason teams in the NL. National League Central still being decided. Jam shot hit solely to Odor. Soto is retired.
I would have to think it's going to be very hard for the Brewers to go home and play the final 3 home games.
Yeah, man.
For what, 100, well over 100 games in first place, and just off to a great start mid-season, and then to lose today to Cincinnati.
He said today that they were in first place 150 days this year. Not games, days. So, you know, you take off days into play, but still, that tells you. So you're right. That's going to be one of those off seasons where you're going to think about what the heck happened.
And that's a kind of shock that takes a while to get over, considering you're going on. I mean, the A's really fortunately have the wild card to deal with.
Beltre throws high, and Sogard with a head first dive, and a nice play by Sogard.
And that is really the one time that you want to slide head first. If Sogard does not slide head first, he's out. Rosales had to jump. Last instant, Sogard able to slide. Next play by Beltre. Quick throw, but heads up play, head first slide by Sogard to get him a base hit, because he is out by maybe 4 or 5 steps if he runs straight through. But he went down as Rosales went up. And that is the perfect slide by Eric Sogard. Well done. Punto. And Punto himself says you shouldn't slide head first unless it's a play like that. Punto seems to do it a lot more than what Sogard just did, but that was the perfect time to do it.
So now top of the order, Coco Crisp, hit number 5 for the A's.
Says Rosales went up. He is only hoping Sogard is running straight and trying to avoid a tag, but by sliding head first, he definitely avoids it, because gravity, you go up, you can only come down so fast, and unless you can't jump high at all. If he didn't jump high enough, ball goes in the seats.
I guess the problem has always been, Ray, is if sometimes with the head first slide on that play, you don't want to wait. Sometimes you have to wait a long time to see that it's a wide throw.
Right.
And then it's too late to slide head first. I wonder on that play if Sogard wasn't sliding head first no matter what.
Well, but if you watch that, he was maybe 10 feet from the bag when he saw Rosales go up. Yeah, so that's a good time to start the slide. And you're right, he might have been doing that, but maybe anticipating the throw from Beltre was going to be high. But actually, Punto at the last homestand started, and he said, "I'm going to be out by 10 feet. I'm not going to do that." Yeah. But in this case, he might have, and you almost have to ask him to see if he saw him go up to catch the ball. And at that point, did he go down? But you know, the thing that Sogard did there and Punto does so well, when they slide head first, they slide through the bag.
Yeah.
They don't jump at the bag as Josh Hamilton did. He may be exactly like you said. Maybe he was anticipating, but he went down quickly and made a slide through the bag. He didn't jump into the bag and take the chance of hurting himself.
Yeah, you don't want to head first slide too late,
right?
Because then you get hurt.
That's when you hurt yourself. You bang yourself into the bag, and as we have said, and many times we have seen, the bag is hard. It's not going to move. It's an immovable force. and it's low to the ground, you hit your hand into the bag, you're going to get hurt. And unfortunately for Josh Hamilton, he was a victim of that early in the season.
3-1 pitch to Coco is low, and the A's have 2 on and 1 out. And Reddick coming up. But Coco's got 2 singles and a walk. A couple of walks now issued by Colby Lewis, so a meeting at the mound. Tim Bogar, the interim manager around Washington, stepped down, and they've played well under him. And lately, they've won 4 in a row and 11 out of their last 12. Interesting to see who's on the Rangers managerial search list.
Reddick has seen the breaking pitches inside, 3rd time through the batting order. And I think this is where someone like Colby Lewis and his style of pitching, if the pattern is there, curveballs inside, and twice Reddick has missed it, as has Moss. A strikeout for Reddick plus the pop-up.
Reddick swings at a fastball, fouls it right over top the A's dugout, maybe into the A's dugout. That one in there.
Big Nate will protect everybody.
Yeah, and you can't hurt Prieto. That's not going to happen. He's too big and strong. You can't hurt him.
And Moss just throws water on Soto. So I think they're a little loose down there.
1 pitch, strike on the outside corner with a fastball. So Lewis jumps ahead of Reddick 0-2.
Now he hasn't thrown the curveball in this at bat. Fastball's away, nailed it perfectly. So maybe from here in Chirinos trying to mix it up a little bit.
Fastball high. You got to believe he's going to throw that curve at some point.
Well, that's what Reddick's probably thinking also, and maybe he's going to try to react. They're playing him to pull. Again, you have Martin playing very shallow in center field, as he normally does with all hitters. A high fastball here. Oh.
And it goes past Chirino, and the A's runners move up.
That's an interesting move by Chirinos, the catcher, because he gave a high target. Maybe he's trying to dig somebody. I don't know. But watch it. He goes up with the target, and then the breaking ball, hard slider down and in. Reddick did not offer at it. That's the good news, because good news for the A's, the ball got by Chirinos. Now Reddick with at least 1 chance to try to bring in at least 1.
Infield comes in for the Rangers. Reddick strikeout and a fly ball to right field. And he belts this one to right, but it's going to hook foul. Second deck.
There's your breaking ball in. See, he just reacted on that. He didn't really try to go get it. He just stayed back and reacted, and unfortunately pulled it foul. Odor did the same thing.
Long look in by Colby Lewis. Now he's ready. 2-2 pitch is popped up. Beltre over. He's got it, 2 outs. Mike Maddox is going to come out. Donaldson up with Dunn, the next hitter.
You know, I thought maybe the fact that with a count of 1 and 2 with a breaking ball in the dirt, runners advance, that maybe there would be no thought about runner at third unless in 2 outs. Didn't want that. Pop up with a fastball in. This conversation, although rare as it might be, is that Josh Donaldson's a pretty good hitter and good RBI man, right-handed pitcher, right-handed hitter, first base open, left-handed hitter in the on-deck circle. But Donaldson, with that visit by Maddox, has to be thinking, are they going to pitch to me, pitch me carefully, be selective, expand my strike zone?
Fastball close but inside, 1-0. Donaldson a base hit in the first, struck out looking in the third. 2 RBIs out there looking at him. Breaking ball blocked nicely by Chirino. So now it's 2-0.
I don't think they're pitching to him. I think this is it's not necessarily intentionally walking, but at least give some consideration about what you're going to do, because a bad fastball inside, way off the plate, hard slider in the dirt, away from him. Just can't believe he'd be missing that much intention.
That one off the plate, 3-0 with a fastball. And now they're going to put him on. So there's the walk. So bases will be loaded, and let's check into the studio with an October Quest update. All right, keeping a close eye on that one. White Sox 3, Royals 1 in the 4th. Here's Adam Dunn, bases loaded, 2 outs. First pitch, broken bat grounder to Rosales. So Lewis went in with a fastball, and it worked. You got big Adam Dunn. So the A's leave him loaded, and it's no score going to the bottom of the 5th.
Is with the MLB.com at bat, the #1 app for live baseball. Enjoy live look-ins, instant replay scores, live radio broadcasts, the MLB.tv game of the day, and more. Get at bat for your smartphone or tablet on the App Store or visit MLB.com.
Bottom of the 5th, it's a scoreless game. The Rangers have just 1 hit. The A's, it's turning into one of those frustration games a little bit, Ray. A's are 0 for 5 with runners in scoring position. They've stranded 7 through the first 5 innings. We don't like those games.
No.
Because they leave you with thoughts after the game. Thoughts of frustration.
Well, I think that's why, and Bob Melvin said it, we were talking about it, that if the A's can get to postseason, then everything changes and people relax. And I think the push to get there, trying to get there, and we saw in the 3-game series against the Angels, they're there. And they played like they're there. And who knows what's happening with the Royals?
Sure.
Yeah, because they haven't been there since '85. The Mariners, we saw what happened today. At least they stayed alive, but lost 3 or 4 in Toronto. But there's something about the 2 tenths and just really can't do something. And that's play your normal game.
Smolinski strikes out on that big breaking ball. That's 5 strikeouts.
There's an aggressive hitter and didn't recognize the break on the pitch. Nice catch by Soto on a ball in the dirt. So get a hitter to be aggressive, swing the pitch out of the strike zone. Make sure you block it or catch it.
Here's Rua.
Well, you can call it.
You wanted to.
Wow. That's a couple now that have been pretty good breaking pitches not called by the home plate ump.
Rua had a good swing there. It's 1-1. Rua hit a fly ball to right field to end the 2nd inning. The only hit for the Rangers was Sardina's 1-out double in the 3rd. Good curveball, but Rua takes it. Chirinos to follow. And this one's hit high in the air. First base line. Vogt comes hustling down. He's got it. 2-1. So Hamill has retired 7 in a row since that Sardina double. 68 pitches as well for Jason Hamill. 3rd inning got him a little bit with the pitches. He threw 24 today.
2 more than he'd thrown in the previous innings.
Chirinos swings and misses.
And it's good the breaking pitch is working so well for Hamill tonight because you have aggressive hitters, and this is one of them. And you get a fastball as he swung at a pitch up and in, a high fastball that was not a strike.
Tough hop for Donaldson. He handles it, throws in time. So Jason Hamill, very good so far, and we are moving to the 6th. No score.
14 A's postseason home games. You can select any games from the wild card game all the way through the World Series. Any unplugged games are completely refundable. For more information, call 510-638-GO-A's or go to athletics.com/postseason.
Moss, Vogt, and Lowry here in the top of the 6th inning. He's had their leadoff man on in the 1st, in the 3rd, in the 4th. Not in the 5th, but they had the bases loaded in the 5th. Colby Lewis has worked his way out of some jams, and the A's have been kept off the board.
And that's really Lewis at his best, because that's what he does. He's not overpowering, hits the corners, and he's smart enough pitcher that if he does get in trouble, he doesn't pitch his normal game.
And he is going to give up hits, and you will have opportunities to get runs off.
Hamill has been unbelievable. No walks, very important, especially in this part. 3 walks for Colby Lewis, but yet still a 0 in the runs column.
2-1 pitches high, 3-1. Tigers have added a run in the bottom of the 7th, still batting. They lead the Twins 4-2 now. Three-one pitch, not close, and it's a leadoff walk. So the leadoff man out again.
It's almost like he just completely lost it to Moss. Maybe trying to nail the outside corner, not give him a pitch inside, and kept pushing the ball out of the strike zone, especially to the left.
So let him bring up Vogt. They're starting to shake up a little bit out in the bullpen. Nobody throwing yet. 82 pitches for Colby Lewis.
Andy Hawkins, the bullpen coach, and get that look on his face like, who are these guys? There's so many relievers down here, and we've seen so many of them. Here's Stephen Vogt, and 8 of his 9 home runs against righties. One of those against Uehara in a big game in which the A's hit 2 home runs in the 9th inning with Red Sox in town. Tied in the 9th. He and John Jaso home runs, but good season for Stephen Vogt.
A fly ball to center and a foul out to 3rd. So he's 0 for 2. Stride. It's probably a good pitch to not swing at, because probably can hit it on the ground.
One thing about Stephen Vogt, we've seen some fly balls, and then tonight a couple of fly ball outs, but seems like when the pitch is up, he's not getting on top and driving. That pitch, like you said, probably would have beaten it to the ground. But seems like the pitches that are up, he's getting under, lifting, and not driving them like he was early in the season, of course, after his recall.
So 1-2 now to Vogt. And to fight back behind in the count.
Slider in. Hit it. Okay. Oh. Came close. I guess he was able to get out of the way. Chirinos gave the sign and then pointed to the ground. Stephen Vogt, got his left foot out of the way. Of course, better to get out of the way instead of taking one on the top of the foot. Just natural instincts, get out of the way.
So 2-2. Moss short lead at first. This one's drilled to left field. That's hit pretty well. Rua going back, still going back near the wall, makes the catch, bangs up against the out-of-town scoreboard for the first out. A well-hit ball by Stephen Vogt comes up short.
Hit enough on the line drive that nothing was going to affect it, except the ball just did not have enough oomph to get it on the wall. Took off great, but then started to die. And right in front of the wall, that's a great opposite field shot. Long park to hit it in. Can't hit a ball much better unless you hit it out.
So here's Lowry. Lowry lined out to short in the second, then hit a long fly ball to right field in the fourth. In the fourth, he hit well, but it was caught by Smolinski right around the warning track. Soto to follow here in the sixth inning. Line drive, right field, base hit. This is going to allow Boss to go around to third. So the A's have first and third. So another scoring opportunity.
Lowry this time decided to hit the ball on line drive, figuring that fly ball to right field might not carry. Got on top of it. And one thing about this park, and we have seen Seattle, Chicago, and ball sometimes when it hits, it does not scoop, really take off, and that ball had a chance maybe to go to the wall, might have scored Moss, but that's up to the former Ranger. How great this would be for the former Ranger to do something special in this at bat, to at least play to run. He was at third base and only one out.
First pitch, swings at a breaking ball and missed it. 0-1. 0 for 5 with 7 left on so far. So they got one of the two down, creating opportunities. You got to cash in. Fastball just a little bit high, 1-1.
Amazing with Soto on the fastball. We have seen him at Coliseum against Philadelphia. Hit the ball to right center. Drive the ball. He did it tonight. Right center. The fastball stays inside, but seems like he either doesn't recognize the breaking ball, or if he does, looks like it's a hittable pitch and then drops out of sight and he opens up a little bit too much and doesn't make contact.
Bunts it toward Colby Lewis, and that's going to get a run home. So Soto does it with a bunt. Moss comes in to score. How about that? A's take a 1-0 lead.
And you talk about a perfect pitch to do exactly what Soto did. He had it. It was up, and really it looked like Colby Lewis wanted to go back to the same slider, but he left it up, and Soto, a push bunt. Colby Lewis looked at the plate. Brandon Moss, safety squeeze. He got the bunt down. Brandon Moss saw the ball down. Perfectly executed by Soto. So if you look at that scenario, instead of a ground ball double play as they were playing for it, it gives the A's a chance to get a run in, avoid the double play. Now another runner in scoring position. But how often do we see a leadoff walk at the start of the year?
So here's Sogard, and he takes a strike.
Well, a perfect push bunt. Now, with some official scores, that would be recorded as a sacrifice. Is that what they did here? They did. Sacrifice.
It's an RBI.
It's an RBI, isn't it?
Sogard grounds it to the second baseman, Odor. Side retired. So the A's cash in as Soto bunts home Moss. And we'll take it. 1-0 A's lead as we go to the bottom of the sixth.
with strikeouts. He's got a few tonight, and especially the breaking ball inside of the left hand is working very well. Jason Hamill also doing his job with a big breaking ball, getting Beltre there. High fastball to Torino, struck him out. Got the always aggressive Martin, Odor that is, and here's your only run. First and third, a push bunt by Soto, safety squeeze, and Moss comes in to score, and that's where we are. One hit for the Rangers through 5, 6 in 1 for the Athletics. 6 hits, 1 run, and Jason Hamill pitching great.
He'll face Sardinas, Rosales, and Martin here in the bottom of the 6th. First pitch in for a strike. Royals got a run in the top of the 5th inning, so the White Sox lead Kansas City 3-2 now. In the bottom of the 5th in Chicago. And Shields and Quintana the pitching matchup. Mariners won earlier today 7-5, wrapping up that very long road trip. I think they're glad to be heading home.
Yes. Yeah.
11 game road trip, 11-day road trip.
I think the only worse about that is I think the Astros are going to Citi Field to play the Mets the final 3 games. But interleague, you have to have an interleague game every series every time.
Slap to left field, but Moss is right there. He grabs it. 1 out.
Moss playing a little bit deeper with Sardinas, who hit the ball in left center and had a 1 out double his first at bat.
So here's Adam Rosales. Rosales struck out in the 3rd. See where the Nationals, who are fighting the Dodgers for the best record in the National League, they have the East wrapped up. They have a doubleheader today, playing the Mets. They lost the first game, and they're playing the second game right now. And then they have another doubleheader tomorrow. They have back-to-back doubleheaders.
Well, that's what happens when you have the best record. You have to play those games.
Got to play them.
At least maybe Matt Williams and the Nationals be happy to have 4 days off before they play their first division game, which will be Friday, a week from tomorrow. National League on Friday, American League on Thursday for the division series.
One-two pitch in the dirt. Tigers still leading the Twins 4-2. That game in the top of the 8th inning now. Tigers inching closer to another division title. Two pitch is belted left center. That's hit well. Moss on the move near the warning track, and he makes the catch.
A hanging curveball, which fortunately he hit it where he did. And the fact it was a hanging curveball, he had to kind of provide his own power. And a good swing by Rosales, but happened to hit it to one of the deepest parts of the park. And Brandon Moss this time with a high fly ball able to get to it. So sometimes you get away with a pitch, and I think that time Hamill did, but 2 strikes, hanging curve, hit it in the right direction.
There's Martin, who bunts. Hamill picks it up, throw to first, not in time. That's a Leonys Martin specialty right there, the bunt hit.
You know, really almost like Hamill thought he had it easily. And he got to it quickly, but then did not release the ball quickly. And Martin, I think you're correct. That's his specialty. Just get the ball to where Soto could not field it. It was Hamill barehanding it, but The quickness getting down the line. Let's see him now after the 2-out bunt. Does he try to steal?
17 bunt hits this year. He's got 11. They take that back. He's got 29 steals on the year. He's been thrown out 11 times. So pretty good chance he's going to try to go here. Andrus checks his swing.
One thing we have seen from Soto is the quick footwork and the quick release from behind the plate, getting rid of the ball. It's a long time looking for a sign to steal.
Not running. Now the count is 1-1. So this is one of these interesting situations, and Ray, we've talked about it a lot, where it's a 1-0 game. If you're the hitter, you should want the guy to try to steal. Give yourself an RBI opportunity.
And if you're the runner, you should be stealing sooner than later, because this would be the third pitch coming up. First one was a check swing that Andrus fell back, and then a ball in the dirt. This might be a throw over. You know, it used to be, I was talking to Chili Davis, who's a catcher many years ago, you just to throw over, you just roll the thumb. You know, like point over, roll it over. And now you see the different types of signs that you have, because there's so many variations. To throw over, step off, freeze, pitch out. That's a slider away. Pretty good pitch to run on if he decides to run.
He's got a good lead. There he goes. Andrus takes a strike. Throw to second base. No, not in time. As Jonas Martin called safe on a close play. Throw was a little high.
Well, it was a slider, and that slowed it down a little bit, but the quickness and the fact that it was a little bit high. And Sogard made the quick tag. He did not stay with him. Watch Martin try to keep his hand, and he did. And Sogard taking the high throw, making the quick tag, but just not enough time. So they ruled the slider, a strike, which, like you said, Andrus took it, and it is 2 strikes. Now Hamill has to make a better pitch to try to get the 2-out hit. Or the 2-strike out, not the hit.
And he loops one to Moss coming in. He's going to play it on a hop. The throw to the plate is not quite in time. Martin scores, and this game is tied.
Wow. Another breaking ball, a hanger, and he just threw his bat at it. And unfortunately, by throwing his bat at it, hit softly enough that it was going to land in front of Moss, who charged and just couldn't. Hamill's got a strong arm, but that's with 2 outs. All of that working in the favor of the Rangers for Martin to get a good jump. Slid by, tagged the plate with his hand, and in safety.
Now here's Odor. Andrus goes to second. Straight back. You know what, Ray? Give Andrus a lot of credit on that steal attempt. Not only did he really give up a strike, but he also tried to help the base runner out by faking the bunt, bluffing the bunt, just to try to distract a little bit. So he did kind of what we've talked about. And the stolen base helps the Rangers tie it. Now you got to get Odor. First pitch, 1-1 count.
Well, you wonder too, and if you figure he's going to be running eventually, but Andrus, this is what hitters would do: take the bat out and pull it back, trying to distract the catcher. But he threw one slider in the dirt, and it's almost, if you figure he's going to be letting the runner run, why call a slider? Why not just call a fastball away? Figuring if that's what he's going to do, have a better pitch to throw. By throwing the slider. it just slows down everything because the slider's not thrown as hard.
So 1-2 to Odor. Beltre in the on deck circle. 2-out hit by Andrus has tied it.
A 2-out perfect bunt by Martin. A stolen base, a loop hit, and the A's fought like crazy to get a safety squeeze to score a run, and that quickly with 2 outs and get it back.
Andrus runs, and the ball is hit high and fouled on the left field line. Andrus not really being held on.
Yeah, with 2 strikes, you have to wonder, do you take the chance of distracting the hitter with 2 strikes by stealing? Because maybe the hitter freezes, think he's got the base stolen, forgets there are 2 strikes. I don't know that Odor would do that, as aggressive as he is with 2 strikes.
Fly ball shallow center. It's going to be Lowry who drifts out, the shortstop. He's got it, side retired. So Andrus with the 2-out RBI hit, and we're on to the 7th inning. It's a 1-1 game. Tied in the standings. Mariners won 7-5. They got a couple of home runs from Logan Morrison this afternoon. Beat the Blue Jays.
Strange thing about that report about Kansas City, they hit a home run.
You do not do that very well. They'll steal bags, slap the ball around, but not a big home run hitting team. So Coco Crisp to lead it off, taken all the way, and the pitch is high. Coco has a couple of singles and a walk, so he has been on base all 3 times. These have had their leadoff man on in 4 of the 6 innings. Two and 0. Reddick to follow, and then Donaldson. That Yankee game, the Yankees scored 3 runs in the bottom of the 7th inning. Jeter had an RBI in that inning, so Yankees lead the Orioles 5-2. Kirkman, the lefty, Tollison, the righty, getting loose. Coco with a liner foul. sure we're probably happy with that score, with the Orioles losing in that fight for the best record in the American League. 2-2 pitches way outside, full count.
We don't know. I don't know. How is Derek Jeter going to be removed from the game tonight to get a standing ovation? Interesting. Mariano Rivera last year, of course, a little bit different for a pitcher than a position player.
It is the top of the ninth. And there's a walk. Leadoff man on for the 5th time tonight. All right, here's our fan photo. It's brought to you by AT&T. It's the fan photo of the game. Tweet your photo to CSNCA fan photo. Put your name down and your hometown down for a chance to be shown in an upcoming game broadcast. It's all brought to you by AT&T. It's Natalie from Stockton. That's Natalie and Martina tailgating at the O.Co Coliseum. So appreciate the photo. And we hope they get an opportunity to tailgate at the Coliseum again this year. Lewis misses high.
Thinking about Josh Reddick, 4th at bat for Josh Reddick. This is the 4th time he's had the gap between 1st and 2nd, because Coco's been on 4 times. So Coco's getting there. Look at the gap, the hole between 1st and 2nd with the runner being held. Of course, Colby Lewis staying away with the fastballs, but the curveball sliders are coming inside.
Reddick fouls it to our left. Takes a big bounce and goes down to the bottom level. 102 pitches now for Colby Lewis.
That's what he threw in his only start early in the season. A start in which Drew Pomeranz would like to forget, because he was the opposite number, and that's the game he gave up a lot of runs and decided to take his frustration out on with his right fist.
That's right.
That's the one. I mean, he broke his hand. But that was really Drew Pomeranz's only bad start of the season. It happened to come in the game that Colby Lewis started against the A's. And as he said, nobody in the clubhouse will let him forget about that chair that got in his way.
And he won't do it again.
No.
So Reddick bunts, and the count is now 1-2.
Local papers actually had Pomeranz pitching there.
I know, I saw that, and then I had to stop and go, well, wait, am I missing something?
Well, I saw him. I said, did you know you're pitching tonight according to local papers? And he said, no. But they had, of course, that was Hamel's start that Pomeranz pitched in Saturday. And Hamel back tonight and pitching well. Fastball in.
Here it is. It's hit to right field, shallow. Smolinski coming in. He's got it, 1 out. So Reddick, who's been a hot hitter, 0 for 4 tonight. And here's Donaldson. Single strikeout, intentional walk for Donaldson. With a little lean at first. Again, as we told you earlier, the outfield pulled around toward left.
Slide step, little quick pitch by Colby Lewis, and fouled straight back off the right shoulder of Milwaukee. The shoulder pads protected him.
And Coco had something in his eye. Now Donaldson. Donaldson takes strike 3 called, an 0-2 pitch. Donaldson did not agree with Bill Walke in the 3rd inning and doesn't agree with them here in the 7th. See where the pitch is.
Well, he said, where is that? And if it had the corner, there's nothing wrong with it. And I think it had the corner, and you just can't believe. And the height, this was higher than the actual one back in the 3rd inning when it's called out on a fastball in. That was a 2-2 count.
So Donaldson retired, 2 outs. So see if Adam Dunn can come through. Strikeout, walk, and a ground out. His ground out came with the bases loaded in the 5th inning, the end of the inning. There's a strike outside corner.
That was a pitch for him to hit, maybe up in the suites in center field or left field.
Inside, and it's down again.
I was thinking of Don's home runs with the Athletics. Of course, the Chris Young changeup he hit on September the 1st, and King Felix a 3-2 fastball on the inside that he kept fair, very deep in right field, Coliseum. And as massive as he is, you just figure if he makes solid contact, he can travel any part of the park.
Hits that one right past Ty Waller, and now count is even at 2-2. The crowd starting to make some noise here inside the ballpark. Pitch number 112 coming up for Colby Lewis. Big shift on for Adam Dunn, outfield deep. 2-2 pitch. Did he go? No, a little high.
Got that little loop in his swing where he'll start and strong enough to stop, and that's some strength to be able to start your bat and be able to stop it without even really any question about it being a check swing or not. Check off the fastball in to go to the slider. Hanging.
And he got it. So Colby Lewis works out of another mini jam. A's strand a runner, and we have reached the 7th inning stretch. It's a 1-1 game, A's Rangers. So Colby Lewis has been very good. Jason Hamill has been very good. He's allowed just 3 hits.
You would have to think Colby Lewis is finished for the night with his pitch count and number of walks, but Rangers staying with him, even walking Coco Chris to lead off the top half of the inning, but he got through it.
Close. To call the ball 2-0 to Beltre as Otero starts to throw. Beltre a strikeout and a line out to first. Curve and a good one. 2-1. Tigers won that game. They defeated the Twins 4-2. Max Scherzer got his 18th win. Victor Martinez hit home run number 32, and Miguel Cabrera hit home run number 24. Line drive, base hit, right center field. Coco over to pick it up, and the Rangers have the leadoff man on here in the 7th inning, and that is career hit number 2,600 for Adrian Beltre.
A low fastball and tried to go inside, but Beltre brought the hands in, hammered it to right center, and 400 away from a number that he will reach before his career ends.
So those are active players. He's 4th on the list. Derek Jeter is going to retire after this year. I don't know what's going to happen with Alex Rodriguez. Here's Smolinski. Smolinski, a little flare to left, and that's going to drop for a hit. So now the Rangers are in business.
Well, a couple of fastballs that have been hit. One solidly, the other, this one jammed. And Smolinski, sometimes you hit it soft, it works out. That one did.
So Bob Melvin's going to make the move. So Jason Hamill pitches terrific, but he's going to leave with 2 on, nobody out, and the game tied at 1. So when it's time for a change, think Speedy Oil Change and Tune Up, your oil change, tune up, and smog experts.
California is brought to you by Xfinity, home of the most live sports, and by Toyota, #1 in MPG, durability, and resale value. Toyota, let's go places.
So Jason Hamill pitched extremely well. Got a whole lot of help from the offense. 6+ innings, 5 hits, 1 run, no walks, and 5 strikeouts. And And now it's going to be up to Dan Otero to keep this a tie game. Beltre's at second. Smolinski's at first. Ryan Rua is the hitter, and we'll see if he bunts.
Pat, I think there's a pretty good chance of it. It's the thing about the Rangers, whether under Ron Washington or Tim Booger, they do the little things, the small things of bunting, and Dan Otero, a ground ball pitcher, and Donaldson and Vogt at the corners playing, expecting a bunt to be attempted by the Rangers. Nope.
Not bunting. Good pitch outside corner for a strike.
Well, maybe they decided with the infielders playing they didn't want to take a chance. I'm a little surprised because they typically do sacrifice maybe one chance, and if he does not this time, then he's never intended to sacrifice.
Swinging away, lines it foul, and now it's 0-2. Otero jumps ahead. See if he can work that good sinker here. Robinson Chirinos is the on-deck hitter. Inherited runners stranded. And these are spots that Dan Otero comes into a lot.
Yeah.
Eighth inning, ninth inning guys, well, they come in to start the inning. Otero usually comes in right in the middle of a whole bunch of stuff going on.
Yeah.
Not an easy way to come out of the bullpen. He's very good at it.
Fernando Bott also. When you see a lot of inherited runners and those that scored are not in percentage, then you know that you're exactly right. They're coming in tough jams.
And how about that sinker? Use it as a strikeout.
That's even better. What a great pitch. You talk about a turbo sinker. This ball starts and then just goes straight down. And the hitter, Cardinals send 2 strikes, especially opening up, head flying and trying to hit a pitch. And those 2 runners are Hamill. He's right now would like to see Otero continue to do his magic. Another right-handed hitter.
Chirinos, little tapper to Otero. He's going to spin, throws to second. They get the out there. So 2 away. It'll be first and third. And the fielder's choice. Now Sardinez will be the hitter. He's got a couple pretty good at-bats today.
What a play by Dan Otero. The slow hit ball, even think about going to second. I mean, it keeps a force in play at second, but a gutsy play by Otero to go to second. He made the perfect throw, and it's almost as if Lowry came off the bag, caught the ball, then stepped on the bag.
So now he's got to get Sardinez a double in the third and a line out to left in the sixth. First pitch just a bit inside. Sardinez is a switch hitter. Slices that one foul.
Amazing sometimes when Otero elevates the sinker, but it's almost like it's intentional because he did it to Ruau, and then all of a sudden he throws in the turbo sinker and gets a strikeout. So trying to do the same thing with Sardinez to get the third out and the big out here.
Foul back again. So Otero coming right at these hitters.
Started in just enough to bring him back to the plate, foul back, and now they're going to talk about it.
Still surprised, Ray, that, and I know this is after the fact. Still surprised they didn't bunt.
I agree. I mean, because it brought the infield
bottom of the 7th inning.
Yeah. I mean, I agree 100%. That's why I said it. Just figured that's a Rangers way of doing things.
1-2. Back again. Fastball up a little bit. Oh, what a play by a fan. My, oh, my.
Bare hand? Bare hand with a beverage.
He just reached over, beverage in left hand, bare-handed it, and it was not an easy play. Check this out.
Wow.
That is a heck of a play. I'm not sure he could do that again.
No, he caught it before the ball and his hand hit the rail.
Another foul ball.
And man's also getting some diamond vision coverage.
He probably should.
Yeah.
Beltre at third, Chirinos at first. And he got him swinging. Pitch that was out of the strike zone. So what a job by Dan Otero as he strands both runners. And we're moving to the 8th. 1-1 A's Rangers. Remember, 31-year-old minor leaguer was called up a month ago. His parents in the stands. You see him made that play, flipped the ball to his family, and then got his first major league hit. That's a big moment. And then the go-ahead RBI he knocks in. How about that? 31 years old, played 13 seasons and over 1,000 games in the minor leagues. So congratulations to Gilder Rodriguez. Waited a long time for that moment, no question at all.
And that probably, all that ice probably felt like it's 100 degrees for him. He could care less. Finally got a bath of Gatorade.
So we got a new pitcher and we got a new hitter. When it's time for change, think Speedy Oil Change and Tune-Up. Your oil change, tune-up, and smog experts. It's Michael Kirkman who comes in. And Kirkman is going to face the pinch hitter Johnny Gomes. Gomes hitting for Moss in the 8th inning. Trying to get something going. A's have stranded 9 in 7 innings. They've stranded at least 1 in every inning except the 3rd.
You know, when the A's were in Seattle that Sunday game, Dan Otero came in, had 2nd and 3rd, then the bases loaded, got out of a tough jam. Afterwards, he said, I don't know how I did it. Well, tonight, how about first and second? Nobody out. Hitter doesn't bunt. He strikes out. Makes a great play at second base, does Otero, to get a runner, and then strikes out the final back. So first and second, nobody out. Dan Otero got out. Now the A's trying to score, trying to get back on the board and take the lead again.
2-0 pitch, not close. 3-0. Stephen Vogt in the on-deck circle. Kirkman gets a strike that time. We'll see if Gomes is ready to rip on 3-1. He hits it on the ground right to the shortstop. Andrus straightens up and throws out Johnny Gomes for out number 1.
So a good comeback by Kirkman after falling behind 3-0.
And here's Vogt. White Sox and the Royals still tied at 3. That game now going to the 8th inning in Chicago. First pitch to Vogt. A slider and a good one in for a strike. So you want to tell them what happened in New York? Or, I mean, if
I'll let you
somebody's not watching over Derek Jeter, I don't know who.
Well, that's right. Well, says it all about the captain.
So the Yankees were leading that game 5-2 in the 9th inning, feeling pretty good. Vogt is going to be retired on the ground ball. So 5-2 lead in the 9th inning, Derek Jeter's final home game. But the Baltimore Orioles scored 3 times in the top of the 9th inning to tie it. So 5-5 game going to the bottom of the 9th inning, and you guessed it, Derek Jeter with a walk-off RBI hit to give the Yankees the win. You just don't write things up like that. That's about as magical as you can get.
That's better than having Rivera taken out by Pettit and Jeter last year.
I tell you. So we got a pitching change. Think speedy oil change and tune-up. Oil change, tune-up, and Smog experts. You by Golden Gate University. Finish your bachelor's degree online or on campus. Golden Gate University, make it your comeback year. That gentleman's doing a good job, and he's having fun doing it. And I wouldn't mind going to visit him after an A's win. Ray, huh? You shoot down there.
That's pretty good.
He makes us up a burger.
That fans having fun.
Sean Tollison comes in. Done a nice job for the Rangers this year. 3-1 with a 2.80 ERA. So Kirkman retires 2 hitters.
And the right-hander comes in, but meanwhile on the jumbotron here, Chuck Morgan had a diamond vision showing the final at bat by the captain Yankee at Yankee Stadium, Derek Jeter, showing the walk-off base hit. Of course, Jeter has made the tour around all the American League parks and some of the Interleague and the National League. He was here. Now the A's trying to find a way to get another run and hold it if they get it.
So 2 outs for Lowry. Lowry had a base hit in the 6th inning. Fastball a bit inside. So Colby Lewis, 7 good innings tonight. He weaved in and out of trouble. Gave up 6 hits and 5 walks. Good pitch there by Tollison. And the hitter looking for a fastball, throw off speed.
It was the 8th inning at the Coliseum. Jeff Samardzij's outstanding outing of 8 shutout innings. The A's had a 1-0 lead. Bases loaded, nobody out, and Tim Bogart used every pitcher it seemed in the 8th inning, but got out of the jam. A's did not score another run. Samardzij came out. The Rangers scored 6 in the 9th inning, and Samardzij another great outing in which he was not able to pick up a win.
Swing by Lowry on a fastball, 93 miles an hour. A's with 6 hits in the game. They have not gone down in order in any inning tonight. This one may be the first one, and it is. So Tollison gets Lowry. Bottom of the 8th coming up. It's going to be Rosales, Martin, and Andrus. This game tied at 1.
Retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of Athletics Investment Group, LLC.
This game summary is brought to you by your local Toyota dealers. 1-6-0 for the A's, 1-5-0 for the Rangers. Both pitchers were great, Hamill and Lewis. A's have had a few more opportunities than the Rangers have, but they just have not been able to get that big hit. There's a safety squeeze by Soto that got the A's their only run. So they will go back to the bullpen. And it'll be Luke Gregerson when it's time for change. Think Speedy Oil Change and Tune-Up, your oil change, tune-up, and smog experts. So Gregerson in for the 72nd time this year.
A workhorse, but he expects it every year to pitch in that many games. He's done it throughout his career. San Diego, now his first year with the A's.
Sam Fuld comes in the game in left field. So Gomes hit for Moss. And now Fuld in the game for Gomes. Kelly Feliz starts to throw. First pitch to Rosales, sinker for a strike. Rosales a strikeout, the fly ball to left field. MVP in this game for the A's, maybe Dan Otero right now.
At this point, exactly. Maybe we'll change if the A's can get somebody on base and drive him in.
Rosales checks this way, 2-1 account. Martin to follow, and then Andrus if anybody were to get aboard Odor. Crowd tonight here at Globe Life Ballpark, 33,696. Strike. Decent crowd on a Thursday night.
Slider to the outside part, and different types of pitches thrown by Gregerson, especially a different type of slider.
Another slider, and Rosales just made contact to stay alive.
You know, one of the things about the attendance announced, tickets sold, and in the case of the Rangers, where it looks like a decent crowd, but they've been saying a lot of no-shows. But tickets sold. They have a lot of season ticket holders. I think over 20,000 today, but a lot of times they don't show up. But they sell them based on the success of the team the last few years, and the Rangers have had good success.
2-2 pitch is hit hard to Lowry, who scoops it up. And Rosales is out, 1 out. So that'll bring up Leonis Martin. Mariners won their game. Tigers won their game. Royals and White Sox. We're going to get an update real soon. I'll tease you a little bit, right? I'm not going to tell you what's going on.
Yeah, if I can use your binoculars, I can figure it out.
No, I'm not going to let you use my binoculars. We want you to be surprised, whether it be good or bad. We want you to be surprised.
Well, let's just hope we're not surprised about another bunt by Leonis Martin, who started it in the only run scored by the Rangers. A 2-out bunt, stolen base, scored on a loop to left field on a 2-strike pitch.
Lowry quickly to first, 2 away. Martin went after the first pitch. He's retired.
You know, Kathy, if you had the ability to bunt the way he does with speed, why wouldn't you?
Sure.
I mean, so you attempt and you're not successful, you still get another pitch or two, but man, that
He's got
kind of
7
speed,
home runs.
Yeah. But he had proved tonight that with his speed, he tied this game. And granted, Andrus got the base hit. But the bottom line, it was a bunt, perfect bunt, a stolen base. He put himself in scoring position within about 4 pitches. So good news that the A's get a 1-pitch ground ball out.
Andrus takes a touch outside. One and 1 the count. Andrus had that RBI single in the 6th inning and 2 outs.
Hitters will say that if they are not afraid to get to 2 strikes, they're good hitters. And Elvis Andrus proved that he allowed the stolen base, got the 2 strikes, then got the base hit. An unselfish player, basically, to do that.
Shows bunt. Donaldson comes charging in, and the pitch is outside. So 2-1 the count. Base is empty here in the bottom of the 8th inning. Slider not close. Gregerson was frustrated with himself. So 3-1 now.
Well, this is a big at bat because 2 outs, yes, but Anders also a threat to steal. Should he get on? Fastball away.
And he bounces it to Donaldson. Fair ball. Donaldson fires it across in time. So good inning for Gregerson. 3 ground ball outs. And through 8 innings in Arlington, we are still tied at 1. So the Royals leading late. A's Royals tied. 2 of those 3 teams are going to go as American League wild card representatives. They will play on Tuesday. The winner will play on Thursday against the team that finishes with the best record in the American League, which right now it certainly looks like it's going to be the Angels. When it's time for change, think Speedy Oil Change and Tune-Up, your oil change, tune-up, and smog experts. Naftali Feliz comes in. He's the closer for the Rangers, so we will bring him in here with the game tied in the 9th inning. He'll face Soto, Sogard, and Chris.
Well, the gift the Angels gave to Derek Jeter when he was in Anaheim. I don't know how good the gift was or what it was, but they got a gift tonight.
Yep, sure did.
The walk-off hit by the captain in his final at bat at Yankee Stadium.
That's right. So the Angels have a 3-game lead now for that best record with 3 to play. And as we told you earlier, the Orioles actually have the tiebreaker over the Angels. So Angels just need to win one. The Orioles lose one, and that will guarantee home field advantage for the Angels for as long as they're in. One and one the count to Soto, who has doubled, grounded out, and then in the 6th inning, safety squeeze, laid down a nice bunt and got Moss home for the A's only run so far.
Well, one thing for sure, you cannot look for too much with Phillies anymore. His arm injuries, and he's just kind of flipping the ball up and changing speeds a little bit. The fastball not with a lot of velocity.
And that one hit into left field. Rua going back, and now he's called off by the center fielder Martin, who grabs it. So one out here in the top of the 9th inning. Tonight's Cold Hard Facts are brought to you by Frost Brewed Coors Light. Strikeout walk ratio relief leaders. As expected, Sean Doolittle on top. 88 strikeouts and 8 walks. Still a number that makes you shake your head and chuckle. R on there, Qualls. Our old friend Pat Neshek, who's been very good with the Cardinals.
And Pat with Doolittle warming up in this, the 9th inning. Gregerson pitched the 8th in a tie game. We might be seeing Doolittle coming in. Remember, he pitched 2 innings when the A's won in 10 innings on Sunday against the Phillies.
It'll be Odor, Beltre, Smolinski, the 3 hitters for the Rangers in the bottom of the 9th. If the A's can get something going with 2 outs.
And if he does come in, it kind of shows the importance of this game and what the A's are thinking. Because normally your closer on the road will not come in unless you have a lead. But maybe if that is the case and Doolittle is able to pitch 2 innings, which he did on Sunday, which more than likely he could if it does come out to be that way.
I'll say it is what it is, right?
It is what it is. That's right.
Battling hard to get into the postseason, and there's 4 games left, and you're not in yet. To Coco Crisp.
Maybe get a Coco run. Maybe Coco Crisp could get on base, steal a base as Martin did, and let Reddick bring him in. Who knows? That's how the Rangers scored their 1 run with 2 outs.
And now it's 3-0. Coco's been on base all 4 times. How about that? 2 singles and 2 walks. And the pitch is inside.
Wow.
Hey, make sure you join us tomorrow for game 2 of this 4-game series. It'll be Scott Kazmir and Nick Tepich. Coverage begins at 4:30 with A's pregame live. Complete A's coverage every night on Sportsnet Central and CSNCalifornia.com. The home of A's baseball is Comcast Sportsnet. So Kazmir tomorrow. Samardzija on Saturday. Sonny Gray on Sunday. Ready? Little pop-up. Andrus gets back, makes the catch. Side retired. So Coco is stranded. And the bottom of the 9th is coming up. It'll be Odor, Beltre, and Smolinski. This game is tied at 1.
because he's done a very good job. He did it in Seattle. He did it again tonight. As he got a strikeout, actually 2 strikeouts. The Rangers opted not to bunt with first and second, nobody out. Jason Hamill, the starter, he's very happy with the job well done by Dan Otero. And A's now will try to take it into the extra innings. And it's going to be Luke Gregerson pitching the 9th. So Doolittle was up perhaps if the A's took the lead. And it's going to be Gregerson to stay in.
Odor steps in, the 20-year-old second baseman. Will be followed by Beltre Smolinski.
12 pitches for Gregerson in the 9th inning. It makes it the 8th inning.
First pitch to Odor. Call the ball. Odor has grounded out twice and popped out. Decent power for a smaller guy.
Are you going by the swing or?
Well, I was going by stature,
yeah.
But the swing says I can hit a ball a long ways.
Rubbed off his right foot. Not your normal swing for a second baseman, but I think he's changed all of that. Of course, a lot of middle infielders have changed the approach.
One pitch is a slider in there for a strike, 1 and 2. Bounce back to Gregerson. He grabs it, tosses to first, 1 away. So Odor 0 for 4, and here comes Beltre.
And he wants another baseball. Got a big out with that one, but he didn't like the feel of it. And as we have seen many times with Gregerson pitching, he's constantly rubbing up the baseballs because when you pitch late in the game, you just aren't rubbed up as they are at the beginning.
Beltre is 1 for 3. He had a leadoff single in the 7th inning. Fastball that stayed inside, and Beltre had a big swing. White Sox did not score in the bottom of the 8th inning. The Royals take that 5-3 lead into the 9th in Chicago.
Chicago seems to be doing well for the first 6-7 innings. They did against the Tigers. Tigers beat them. And looks like tonight, well, they started out well.
Right field. Reddick near the wall, leaps, and it is gone. And this ball game is over.
Well, we've talked about right field here, unfortunately, and this is a hanging slider that Beltre swings hard. He swung hard that time and did not go very deep. Josh Reddick jumped, but hit the padding just above the glove, bounced back in, but over the fence. And that quickly, the A's are the losers.
So Adrian Beltre and the Texas Rangers hurt the Athletics again. They swept them in Oakland last week. They take game 1 of this 4-game series tonight. So another very, very difficult loss for the Athletics. This one on the final weekend of the regular season. So with the loss, the A's now a half game back of the Royals. And the Mariners are still alive, folks, as we hit the weekend. So Adrian Beltre, a home run to right field in the bottom of the 9th inning. And that's a game winner. Final score tonight from Arlington, the Texas Rangers 2 and the Oakland Athletics 1. You've been watching Oakland A's baseball on Comcast Sportsnet California. Don't go away. A's post-game live with Brody Brazil and Bit Roberts starts right now.